In the early spring of 1909, Las Vegas was little more than a dusty promise in the heart of the Nevada desert. A city not yet a city, just wooden storefronts, scattered tents, and railroad tracks slicing through the barren earth. Amidst this wilderness, a Union Pacific Railroad engineer, surveying potential routes for a westward expansion, stumbled upon something that would haunt the region's history forever. Hidden behind a wind-battered grove of Joshua trees, far from any known settlement, lay exactly 89 burial mounds, arranged with mathematical precision, each spaced 6 feet apart, forming an unsettling grid that stretched across the sand. There are no headstones, no names, no markers of remembrance. Just small, weather-worn stones etched with numbers, as if the dead beneath them were inventory rather than souls. The site was immediately concealed by the railroad company, its existence locked away in confidential reports. Locals who dared to speak of it did so only in murmurs, referring to the place as Henderson's Field, a man once considered an honest cattle rancher from Utah Territory. In 1905, with his wife Sarah and their 3 children, Jeremiah arrived in Las Vegas chasing the same dream that brought thousands: land, fortune, and a fresh start. But misfortune had trailed him like a curse. After losing everything to harsh winters and ill-fated ventures, the Henderson family arrived with little more than a wagon, worn-out supplies, and exactly $63 to their name. They couldn't afford the prime city lots being sold at the famous land auction. Instead, they claimed a lonely patch of desert 6 miles southeast of the city, building a modest way station for travelers. Sarah, a devout Mormon and skilled healer, became known in the community for her remedies, treating everything from fever to scorpion stings. Jeremiah, however, watched the land boom from afar, his dreams shrinking as wealthy outsiders snatched up the city's golden plots. He was determined to change that, no matter the cost. When a fugitive named Elias Carter arrived at the Henderson homestead, Carter, gaunt and desperate, offered Jeremiah $700, a fortune to a man with empty pockets, in exchange for safe passage and a promise of anonymity. But in the dead of night, Carter's fate was sealed. Jeremiah suffocated him with a pillow, his hands steady, his heart disturbingly calm. He buried Carter behind the homestead, marking the grave with a small stone etched with the number 1. Something had shifted within Jeremiah. The desert was teeming with men like Carter, drifters, fugitives, and criminals whose disappearances wouldn't stir a single investigation. That night, a new business was born. Jeremiah had found his path to fortune. All it would take was 89 carefully placed bodies. Over the next 2 years, the Henderson homestead became a sinister sanctuary for those seeking to disappear. Word spread quietly through Las Vegas saloons and gambling dens of a man out in the desert who could make problems vanish permanently. Jeremiah was careful, selecting his clients with the scrutiny of a seasoned banker. He only accepted men with money, no family ties, and a criminal past that made them disposable in the eyes of society. Sarah, though initially in the dark, soon became a silent witness to the horror. She prepared meals for men she knew wouldn't see the sunrise. Their son Samuel, an observant 12-year-old, began noticing the grim pattern. Travelers arrived with stories and coin purses, but never left. Each time his questions grew sharper, Jeremiah's responses grew colder. The homestead was no longer just a stopover. It was a slaughterhouse masquerading as a sanctuary. 1907, Jeremiah's inventory had reached 43 graves, each perfectly aligned in the arid soil. But Las Vegas was expanding at a breakneck pace. Property values near the railroad depot soared, and Jeremiah knew he had to escalate his operations. He brought in 2 ruthless partners, Marcus Webb, a former Confederate raider with a taste for violence, and James Pike, an Army deserter skilled in tracking and disposal. No longer content with passive victims, the Henderson gang began prowling the desert roads, ambushing prospectors and traveling merchants who wandered too far from town. Their methods were brutal yet efficient. Clean kills, swift burials, and a silent return to the homestead. The graves multiplied, but so did the risks. Each murder brought Jeremiah closer to his land acquisition dream and closer to inevitable exposure. Sarah Henderson. The nightmare had become suffocating. She began keeping her own secret journal, meticulously documenting each murder, not as an accomplice, but as a desperate attempt to hold onto her sanity, clinging to the hope that the truth might one day surface. Samuel, burdened by knowledge no child should carry, secretly visited the burial field, counting the graves by moonlight, feeling the weight of every life his father had taken. Yet Jeremiah remained singularly obsessed. He calculated that 89 disappearances would yield enough wealth to buy controlling stakes in Las Vegas's prime real estate, ensuring the Henderson name would be etched in the city's foundations. But the cost was a mounting sea of blood, and the cracks in the family's facade were deepening. However, the missing persons reports couldn't stay buried forever. In early 1909, Las Vegas appointed its first town marshal, William Bill Thompson, a former railroad detective with a sharp eye for patterns. Thompson noticed a disturbing trend. Men were vanishing along the same remote stretches leading to the Henderson homestead. Initially, suspicions were muted. After all, the desert was unforgiving. But as the list of names grew, Thompson began zeroing in. Meanwhile, Jeremiah, ever the strategist, sensed the approaching storm. Instead of retreating into caution, he made a chilling decision to accelerate the body count and complete his deadly quota before law enforcement could connect the dots. In a frenzied rush, Jeremiah began targeting anyone who crossed his path: honest travelers, innocent merchants, even men with families waiting back home. The killings became careless, reckless. Sarah lived in paralyzing fear, knowing that once Jeremiah reached his 89th grave, he planned to erase all loose ends, including her and the children. Samuel, now 13, overheard his father's whispered plans of final cleanups. Driven by desperation, he escaped under the cover of night, walking miles across the desert wasteland, battered by exhaustion and fear, until he reached Las Vegas. There, trembling and covered in dust, he found Marshal Thompson and revealed everything: his father's crimes, the burial field, and Sarah's secret journal filled with chilling records. On a windswept morning in March 1909, Marshal Thompson led a team of lawmen to the Henderson homestead. They found Jeremiah seated calmly on the porch, unflinching, as if awaiting his final reckoning. Behind him, stretching into the desert, lay 89 graves, each a monument to his cold ambition. When confronted, Jeremiah uttered a line that would etch itself into the legend of Las Vegas's dark past. "Every empire is built on bones. Mine's just more honest about it." His trial was swift, his execution swifter. By the year's end, the Henderson name was struck from the records. Sarah and the children vanished into anonymity, their fate a mystery. The land Jeremiah coveted was confiscated, later developed into part of the city's bustling core. Yet beneath the neon glow and towering casinos, Henderson's field remains, a silent, forgotten graveyard that Las Vegas paved over but never truly escaped.